Let me know in the comments
if labor is horrible.
if labor is as bad as you thought it was going to be. So Zikora is about a Nigerian woman. She's like a professional businesswoman, makes some money, she's successful. She meets a man and they hit it off and she gets pregnant and that dude's like, I'm out. And she's left kind of like deciding what she's going to do with her life and the child all on her own. And most of the story takes place with her giving birth and kind of like flashbacks of like her relationships and her relationship with her parents. But it's a really short story. It's like a contemporary fiction story, which I'm not into.
Me either.
So I was like, I'm not going to like this. And then it's about a woman giving birth. I'm like, how does that even
relatable for you at all?
Relatable for me and interesting to me. But man, the author can write.
Right?
I was so interested in this lady after like just a few pages.
Yep.
And
right away.
And there's going to be spoilers in this story, by the way, or in this video. So I kind of saw it coming, right? Because she's giving birth alone and she's kind of like, where's this dude at, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
So I kind of saw it coming that he was going to leave her. Mm-hmm. But man, when it happened, I was like, that dude's an asshole.
Seriously, I couldn't believe, like, no joke. I listened to the audiobook, so when that part came up, I was like, oh, no, he did not. I was like, absolutely not. I was genuinely upset for her.
Yeah, I was surprised with how upset I was.
Yeah,
because I didn't think that I would be that upset because I saw it coming, but when it happened, she makes you so like emotionally invested in her,
so quickly,
and you understand her perspective with that relationship. So even when you know what's going to happen, when it does happen, you're just like, F that dude. Man.
Right. And like even things he said, like it's just like, bro, it takes two to tango. Like how is that?
There was an interesting perspective on that in the story, which I did not expect, is that she explains how guys don't understand a woman's body. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was like super accurate because what the hell do I know about a woman's body? I've been married for more than a decade and I still have very little idea about what goes on with women. Although I'm conflicted about his reaction to it.
I mean, I was kind of upset with her for not being a little more upfront with him. Like, hey, like, I just want to make this clear. I am no longer on my birth control, and there is a chance if we have unprotected sex, I will and can get pregnant. Yeah. I just want that to be out there. Disclaimer.
Can you sign this form, please?
I know.
A bunch of small fine print. I am no longer on birth control. Please sign this.
I feel like she should have made it a little more clear because in her perspective, she's like, well, I told him I wasn't taking it. And then she left it at that.
She just
he should have just known.
Knew.
And he just
maybe he could have. I mean, he was an adult, an intelligent man. So you could safely assume, I think, that he would have known that. I think I would have known that.
Yeah, I suppose.
But they had made a joke in there that says, like, a politician had made a comment that women can't control their periods.
Right.
And he's like, oh, wait a minute, you can't?
Yeah, what? Like, hey, wait, huh? Yeah. I love the buildup of him, how she, like, made him seem so perfect. And just, well, at least perfect for her, you know? Yeah. And then in that split second where she's, like, telling him, thinking it's a happy, joyous moment, and he just totally is not who at all she was, like, making him out to be.
He changes in that moment so completely, too, and within, like, 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
She said that they talk through everything, right? Every time there's an issue or something comes up, they talk through everything. But when she was like, yo, you're going to be a dad, he was like, no, I'm not. And I'm out of here. No conversation needed. He blocks her. He blocks her phone call. He doesn't respond to her text messages. The only response she gets is he tells her, like, you're selfish or something like that, right? Like, this should have been a decision
you and
for both
me
of us.
Decision.
But you made that decision. In the end, bro, you're still a dad. It's still your kid. Like, how are you just going to leave? It didn't make sense to me. He's like, no, I'm just going to leave and not be a dad. I'm like, you're still a dad. You're just a deadbeat dad.
I know, you're just not there. You're still a father to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think I had that same thought too. It was like, oh no, he decided to not be in her life or their lives. But I was kind of hoping like he just tragically died for some reason. Just so it was just, it's still tragic, but it's still kind of happy. You know what I mean? Like,
I was glad, spoiler alert, I'm going to give away the ending. I was glad that it ended abruptly and he didn't come back.
Right.
Because I felt like it would have diminished the point of the story because she was always waiting for him to be like this knight in shining armor, and I guess the readers too were waiting for him to show up and everything would be fine. But why are we waiting for a man to make a woman feel valuable? You know what I mean? Or we were basically waiting for him to show up and save the day. Yeah. Right? When women nowadays raise kids alone all the time. It's very difficult, but they do it. Yeah. And I'm glad that this story left it at that, because now in my head I'm kind of like, okay, she's going to do this on her own. And I'm sure that she can. She's intelligent, she's rich, she's a lawyer, and she's got her parents with her. So really, like, it's a story about how you should rely on people in your family. And it was a very interesting relationship between her and her mom. I
was just going to say, I loved and hated their relationship, their dynamics. And I love that this gave us like that Nigerian culture background, because I don't know much about it. Oh my God. I just loved it so much. And I got to get like a really good sense of how they live there, because she kind of goes over it a little bit. Her family dynamics, how it's still kind of old school traditional, where like the men kind of like, you know, make all the money, make all the decisions.
They're still the kings of the house.
Yeah, they're the kings. Wives. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it did feel like exotic, right? You were reading about this stuff, and it's not just like a lonely woman story. It's a story about a Nigerian woman in America. So you got that like kind of fish out of water view, and you got a view at her culture as well, which to me was fascinating because I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, it was so amazing. And her mom, at first, she just seemed so hard and so cold and just so distant, and like when she was telling her, like, you know, basically suck it up and stop acting like that, like have some dignity and all this stuff, I'm like, this poor lady's boyfriend ditched her when she got pregnant. She's having this baby. She basically feels alone. Like, she has no one supporting her.
And I don't feel like her mom changes a lot through the story.
At all.
I feel like the characters, the protagonist's perspective of her mom changes throughout the story, because her mom is there. Her dad is not there.
Nope.
The baby daddy is not there. But her mom is there constantly, all the time. And her mom tells her, you know, don't worry, I got an extended visa. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And although they didn't, and that's one thing I like about this story too, is it's not like a happy ending. It's not like they patch things together and they're going to make it work, mom and daughter. No, like, it's going to be hard, but they're going to get through it together.
That just really made the entire story. Was like literally like the last like couple paragraphs. She's always seen who her mom was, but I feel like she finally solidified who that woman is, like her mother. It was so beautiful. I started crying. I was upset it was over. I was like, God, this is such an amazing, powerful story, because like you said, she's a strong woman. She's like super educated and has this amazing job and career, and like I just loved it so much.
Yeah, I'm glad it ended the way it did. For a short story especially, that was a great way to end it, I think. There was one quote in there that I thought was pretty funny, and it reflects back on an earlier situation she had. So she talks about how she had a boyfriend when she was in college, I think. It was like a basketball dude.
Oh yeah.
Super hot. And he kind of just like uses her for like sex, and that's it. But she's like in love with him, right? And she'll like pick up the phone every time he calls, and he's over, and then he's done with her and he leaves, and she's still in love with him. Yeah. I feel like we still get that sense of that earlier self when she tells her baby daddy, you don't have to do anything. Like, you could just be in my life and you don't have to do any fatherly stuff at all, and it'll be totally fine. So I'm like, wait a minute. You're willing to let this guy in your life and have no responsibility at all for your child, and you're still going to love him? I felt like that was still a reflection of her older self, where she was just willing to do anything for a man for love. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I thought it was very interesting.
But I felt like that also kind of goes back to how they are in her culture too, right? The women just kind of, like her mom, went along with her husband having another wife so they can have kids to carry on the family, you know, name and things like that. And she didn't like it. I'm not saying she enjoyed that. But it was
acceptable.
But she was just like,
yeah, you would definitely have another wife to have a boy. That makes sense.
And that's just my life now, and I'm just going to be happy with it. You know what I mean?
It was so crazy what is acceptable to other cultures.
Yeah, I think she just felt like she just had to accept that kind of relationship.
And this story too gets pretty graphic with
the delivery process, the labor. And honestly, I actually love that aspect too, because I'm a woman and I have kids. I loved how detailed it was, because I felt it was so accurate to how women experience bringing lives into the world. And I felt like it was a moment of growth for her too, which I feel like every woman, when you become a mom, you kind of go through. And I felt like I felt that through the story.
There was one
through the
quote.
labor.
She calls her best friend, and is it her best friend or her sister or cousin or something?
It's her cousin in Nigeria.
She calls her for like advice or to like vent, right? And her
Vice versa, dude.
You said her cousin?
Yeah, it's her cousin.
Her cousin tells her, you always think something's going to be the most horrible thing ever. Until it happens and then you realize it's fine or it's not as bad as you thought. I feel like I've never been in labor, but I feel like watching my wife in labor twice,
it's not.
It seems as terrible as she thought it was going to be.
It
seemed pretty bad.
Right.
Let me know in the comments
if labor is horrible.
If labor is as bad as you thought it was going to be. Educate me. I don't know.
I know. Actually, I've heard it's mixed. I get mixed reviews. Okay, I hear a lot of women say...
You had a C-section. Right?
Yeah, I had a C-section, so didn't have to worry too much about labor pains. But
you were like, just take it out of me.
I don't wish that upon
just
anyone.
Cut it open, scoop it out, and sew me back up like Frankenstein.
Yeah, any type of pain I'm not okay with. So C-section was a lot easier.
Did you go into labor and then you had a C-section, or you just planned everything?
It had to be planned because I had twins.
Oh, geez.
So
twins, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was a high-risk pregnancy, so yeah, I know. That's crazy. But I've heard that a lot of women say, it was painful, but it wasn't that bad. But then other women are saying like, oh my God, it was the most pain I've ever felt in my life. But then like a year later, they're pregnant again. So it's like...
Well, Priscilla...
super painful, but I'll do it again.
She got pregnant once. I had to wait 16 years to convince her to get pregnant again.
But you convinced her.
The second time too, I think she was she was brought to tears because she was afraid of the pain. She was like, I don't want it to hurt. She was like, right when I get in that hospital, you stick me with an epidural. Immediately, right when I walk in, just somebody.
Anyone.
Epidural.
I don't care if you're trained or not.
And then, like, I get to the end, and at the end, there's, like, the author bio, and it's like, award, best-selling author, award. I'm like, of course.
Yeah, a lot of short stories.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And books, yeah,
I just saw the award-winning books she has.
Yeah, nice. Great writer.
She's a great writer, yeah.
Fabulous. Gosh, and the audiobook, too, like I told you, because... the narrator, I think she might be Nigerian also. She had the accent and everything.
Oh, really?
Dude,
nice.
I felt like I was watching real life happening.
I think it had to be that way. If I listen to the audiobook, I can't imagine it not being in a Nigerian accent.
Yeah, like I would have been so, like, it would have robbed me of, like, the experience that I had.
Is that the only story you read from this author?
Yeah. And, like, I felt like I went on...
Which is surprising. It seems like she writes the kind of stuff you would read.
I know. So that's why I went on there and I just did some research. I was like, ooh, she's got a lot of other stuff. So I'm excited. Oh, you read the book. Oh, how small was that? That was, like, a real small book.
Yeah. It was really weird because when I was reading on Kindle, it, like, tells you how long it thinks it will take you to read it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, challenge accepted.
All the tanks are ready.